We seldom realize, for example, that our most private thoughts and emotions are not actually our own. For we think in terms of languages and images which we did not invent, but which we were given to us by our society. Alan Watts. Hi there, it's Marcus, and welcome back to BetterDayBuilder.com. In today's episode, we are going to be going over the book Think and Grow Rich, which has been hailed throughout history as the best book for generating a fortune. Even the title says this could be worth $1 million to you and read yourself into a fortune. Now, out of this book, this was written in the 30s, and a lot of things have changed since then. Out of this book, you've had lots of things come of age or come to popularity. One of those was The Secret, or the Law of Attraction. You see, in this book, they talk about some metaphysical things about how the fact that your thoughts are actually things, and what you think about is going to change what your reality is. Now, a lot of people agree with this. What you think about changes your reality, your perception. Of course, that's real, that makes sense. But is it going to change the world? Can I think and make a tree grow? Can I think myself into a fortune? And we look at this, and a lot of people say that in order to get money, which is pretty much what this book is about. It's about money and positive thinking, right? They say in order to positive, right? That says positive, right? Money and positive thinking. And they say in order to get this money, you need to attract it to you. But the fact of the matter is they're ignoring the basic idea that money is not a thing. Money is not an entity. Money is not something living. It's just an inanimate object. It's something that we use as a form of measurement. It's something we use to determine how much you owe the community and how much the community owes you. Now, with that in mind, and with the quote that I brought up at the beginning of this, I want to dive right in and talk about this, because in chapter 1, page 1, he goes on, right in the first sentence, he says, truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that, right? And he's talking about this idea that thoughts are things, that thoughts are something bigger than us. Thoughts are something that are out there, right? And he goes on and he says on page 3, he talks about opportunity. So he's talking about thoughts, he's talking about changing your thought pattern, and then he dives right into opportunity, and he says, that is one of the tricks of opportunity. It has a sly habit of slipping by the back door, and it often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Perhaps this is why so many people fail to recognize opportunity. So many people are failing to recognize opportunity because it doesn't look like a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. They're not seeing it for what it is, the hard work and everything like that. And he goes on and talks about this, and he talks about how the common cause of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Now, right away, we've gone into like 3 pages here, and we could see that all this mumbo-jumbo about our thoughts creating everything isn't really what this book's talking about. That's not really what it's going into. The people who created The Secret and the Law of Attraction are extracting something that's not really there. Sure, he hints at the fact that, you know, these thoughts are going to change your life, but only with practical application. Very important, because a lot of people say, hey, there's a secret to success. Here it is, right? And it usually sounds something like this. Go to work, do a lot of work, do a really good job, provide value, and you're going to get money, right? That's like the crux of it, okay? So when people say, hey, you can make money easy, yes, this stuff is easy, but you have to do it, right? You have to apply it. And he goes on and he says, one of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat, right? Are we quitting before the magic happens? Are we quitting when we get temporary defeat? Now, I believe that in our society, in our culture, we are plagued by the fear of failure. We're taught in school to fear failure. Our teachers are crazy. Just last week I was hearing about, my daughter has this class, and whenever anyone gets a wrong answer according to the teacher, it's a Bible class, so it's like totally subjective, right? It's totally opinion based. There are no real facts there. And she says, hey, whenever someone disagrees with me, she hits a little bell and she rings a bell, and you know, my daughter's getting kind of angry at it, and rightly so, but it's teaching them the fear of failure. And throughout school we teach the fear of failure. It's not try math and try this and do your best and see how you do. It's A, B, C, D, E, or there's no E, A, B, C, D, F, right? You get an F, you're gonna fail. You get a D, you suck. You get a C, you're average. You get an A, yay, you win. Now, life is different. Life is different than that. And we look at this and we take a look at what he says here in this example. He talks about a guy who buys a field and buys all this stuff to mine for gold, and he digs and digs and digs and gives up. And the guy who comes along and buys the field and all the equipment after him at a bargain price because the guy gave up, digs 3 feet and finds gold. Are you 3 feet from your gold? Are you 3 feet from your breakthrough? Now the cool thing is that in life, in today's day and age, we don't have to guess that the gold is there. We don't have to guess that the money's there. We can see it and we can go after it, right? It's kind of like fishing in the old days. You know, the people were out there fishing and Jesus was like, hey, cast your nets over there, because he knew where the fish were, but he was the only one because he couldn't see under the water. Now, today we have these little finders that find the fish, and you know, my uncle goes out there, he finds a fish, and he's like, there they are, throw your thing there, boom, we get fish, right? Very cool. So today's day and age is a lot different. Now he goes on in page 7 to say, the better portion of all sales I have made were made after people say no. So this is where we look at this and we're like, okay, well, is this book like the magic bullet? No, but there are a lot of practical things, like the better portion of all sales I made were after people said no. That's a key to life, that's a key to sales. And we look at that and we're like, okay, cool. So we got this key, we got this stuff going on. And now I know that after someone says no, I can keep going, right? After I dig for gold and I say, hey, you know what, you want to buy now, it doesn't mean no, it means maybe they have more questions or something like that, right? So he's talking about a lot of practical things. He says, when you begin to think and grow rich, you will observe that riches begin with a state of mind. Now this is very important. He says a state of mind with definiteness of purpose, with little or no hard work, you and every person ought to be interested in knowing how to acquire the state of mind. So he's talking about this state of mind, right? Are you poverty conscious or are you wealth conscious? Now, a lot of people look at this and they put meaning to it, like, oh, this means something different if you're poverty conscious and you're broke. This means something different if you're wealth conscious. Now, another reason I put the quote up before this book review is because of the fact that I want you to know that states of mind, beliefs about money and success and everything was given to you by culture. Okay, we put meaning on this stuff and we say, well, that guy's worth this, or that guy has this, or money's hard to get, or life is hard, things are difficult. But these were all things that were inherited by society, right? Society has taught you to believe these things, and when we look at this, we say, well, can I take the fluff away and can I apply a practical set of systems and solutions to get where I want to go? And that's what I believe this book is telling us. He says success comes to those who have become success conscious. Okay, good. That makes sense, right? If you're not success conscious, you're probably just going to spend all your money and you're not going to care about it anyway because you're not conscious of it. He also says on page 9, we foolishly believe that our own limitations are the proper measure of limitations. Here's another thing, right? Our limitations. In life, we have limitations that we set on ourselves. I could never be Steve Jobs. I could never be Bill Gates. I could never make $1 million. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. And we have these limitations, and these limitations, again, are put on us by society, right? We look at these things saying, I could never amount to that. I could never achieve that. And these limitations are just figments of our imagination, right? He's going on to say something very important. And he's saying that most of your struggles, most of the things that happen in your life are a problem of thinking, right? It's a problem of your belief set. It's a problem of what you think, what you feel, and the meaning you give it. I dug for gold. I gave up. I failed. Okay? Interesting. Now, this guy who dug for gold and failed could also look at the next guy and be like, that lazy SOB, he dug 3 feet. With my equipment, my stuff, my hard work, I did everything for him. He got rich. You could actually live your life as a victim if you were that person, or you could go on and do something else. It all is in your mind. It's all in your thoughts. He goes on and says on page 10, one of these is desire, right? This is a principle of success. So he goes into these principles now. Okay, he says we got to get rid of these limitations. They're only in your mind. What we need here is we need desire. Okay, we need desire. What do you want? Desire is a huge motivation. It's like, you know, a guy going after a girl. It's a base desire. Someone going for food. Someone going for something. You tap into the power of a desire and things start to change. And he says, desire, okay, then he puts little quote things or little colon things and he says, knowing what you want. Okay, desire, colon, knowing what you want. Why is this important? Well, one, to desire this money is fine. That's great. Whatever. You know, you desire success. That's good. Don't make it too big of a thing, but, you know, put your desire in perspective. And he says, okay, good. Now, you could just say, well, you know, I just want money. A lot of people come to me, they're like, Marcus, I want to make money online. Great. Fine. How much do you want to make? As much as I can. Okay, great. Can you put a dollar amount? Because when you put the dollar amount, or you say what you want, or more importantly, you describe what you want. So instead of, I want to make $100,000 a year, or $1 million a year, or whatever, what if I said, here is what I want my life to look like? What do you want it to look like? Years ago, when I was about 20 years old, I met my girlfriend and we got pregnant, and I said, here's what I want my life to look like. I want to stay home, I want to hang out with you, I want to have a pool, I want to have a house, and I want to play with the kids all the time. Don't want to go to work. 17 years later, I've played with the kids, I've gone in the pool. We've had some hard times, of course, because of my bad thinking, which we're going to talk about, but all in all, it's been pretty good. I've gotten pretty much what I've wanted, right? So put in terms, not just the money, but what it's going to do for you. Because a lot of people just want money for money's sake, and that's absurd to me. It doesn't make any sense, right? What good does it do if it's not giving you the life you want? So many people that have lots of money are absolutely miserable because they haven't taken the time to say, what do I want my life to look like? He goes on here on page 11 to say that we have the power to control our thoughts. Now this thinking to me is dangerous, right? He's talking about the idea of controlling one's mind, controlling the mind, right? And this is kind of ludicrous because it's like, okay, controlling your mind. Can you control your mind? Right? Can you really control your mind? I don't think so. You can direct your mind and direct your thoughts, and the way that I look at it is there's a big stream of thoughts going along. There's thoughts going along, and you choose and pick what you pick up. This is where he's talking about wealth consciousness. You see, there's this stream of thoughts going along. Some of them have wealth ideas, some of them have good ideas, some of them say you can't, you won't, you're not good enough, you're this, you're that, you don't have enough money. And what happens is you're going to tune your mind to see what's in that river, and you're going to pick it up automatically. Now, when you go to buy a new car, right, let's say you're going to buy a red Toyota truck. Okay, you're going to buy a red Toyota truck. Now, all of a sudden, when you decide to get this, right, when you have the desire for it, what happens is your brain now tunes in to all the trucks on the road that are red Toyotas, and you're like, there it is, there it is, there it is, and you start to see them everywhere, and it's almost like they manufactured more just because you started thinking about it. But that's not the case. The case is you've trained your mind to pick up those thoughts and to pick up what it sees. Same kind of thing here. We don't control our mind or our thoughts. We just choose where we want to direct it. Now, he goes on in chapter 2, after the chapter on desire, he talks about the chapter on faith. Now, faith is a very difficult subject to talk about in a video about money, because when you put faith with money and health, okay, people are going to have results. They'll say, I had faith, I got rich. I had faith, I got healed. Can you duplicate the result? I don't know. I don't know if it was a product of your thoughts. I don't know if it was a product of this. I don't know, whatever. But what we do know is that faith comes from belief, right? Do you believe you can get what you want? Do you believe you can do this? Now, sometimes this gets dangerous because people talk about belief and they're like, well, I believed it enough, I sat there and I thought about it enough, but it didn't happen. That's where the practicality comes in, right? The practicality comes in where it's like, well, you got to do the stuff, right? I believe I can get healed. It's like the old story of the guy who is lost at sea, and he's treading water, and he's treading water, and he's treading water, and he's like, God, rescue me from the sea. And a boat comes by, and they're like, hey, man, you want a lift? We're here. And he's like, no, man, I just prayed that God would rescue me. He's going to rescue me. And then a helicopter comes down, and they're like, whoo, here's the guy. He comes down. He's like, hey, dude, we're here to rescue you. He's like, don't worry about it. God's got it covered, old buddy. Right? The guy ends up dying, and he goes to heaven, and God's like, well, I tried to rescue you, I sent a helicopter and a boat, but you didn't get in. Same kind of thing here. It's like, hey, the secret to success is there, but you gotta get in the boat and go do it. You have to have the practical plan. And he talks about faith being the head chemist of the mind. This is interesting. I like this, right? Because so now we have desire, we have faith and belief. Faith and belief not only is difficult for me to spell, but it also changes your mindset, right? A guy who believes he can do something is a lot more able to get it than someone who doesn't believe. Someone who believes they can be healed, you know, stuff like that is going to change the way you are. But he says it's a chief chemist of the mind. Now, here's something interesting. Okay, we have controlling mind, we have chemist mind, okay? Now, this is interesting because if the mind is based on chemistry, and chemistry changes your mind, could things that you're thinking about change your chemistry? Could things you eat change your chemistry, which in turn is changing your mind? Have you ever noticed how if you drink too much sugar or you have too much alcohol or something like that, your mind is going to change? For me, when I was an alcoholic, my mind went to depression, right? Automatically, boom, the chemistry changed it. So he's saying faith is the head chemist of the mind. So if you have this faith, this belief, it's going to change the chemistry in your body. Very important, very interesting, and very practical. All right, he goes on to say how to develop faith. Well, affirmation, repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion. So he goes on to say this principle of autosuggestion. Okay? Now, this is a proven, known fact. It's something that I've learned numerous times throughout my life when I wanted to change my situation, and that is that repetitive affirmations work, right? It's like the old adage, if you could tell a lie long enough, people will believe it as truth, including yourself. Right? You tell yourself these stories, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not whatever, no one's going to like me. Boom, you're not going to get where you want to go because the affirmation is there fighting against you, right? Do you ever feel like you're fighting a huge uphill battle to get where you want to go? Well, I got to tell you that uphill battle is because you're trying to control your mind. You can't control your mind. All you can do is relax. It's kind of like the old adage of the only way to catch your breath is to lose your breath. The only way to find your mind is to lose your mind, in a sense. And we look at this and we're like, wow, wait a minute, this is starting to make sense to me, because now we have this idea of faith and belief as a practical solution that can be put through with autosuggestion, right? That's why the majority of the people who grow up in churches end up believing the same stuff later. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent doesn't matter. What matters is the autosuggestion. The same thing happens with the stories you tell yourself. Let's take a look again over here on page 32. He talks about thoughts which have been emotionalized. I like this. Thoughts that are emotionalized. Right? There's certain thoughts that are emotionalized. Just last night I was reading the comments on YouTube. If you've never been a YouTube publisher, for some reason, there's some of the meanest people in the world on YouTube, and they are not grateful that people put out good videos and videos at all. They act like you forced them to sit there and watch a video, and then they're like, hey, you're terrible. One guy said I should be shot, which is stupid, but, you know, to each his own. I don't think anything like that. But again, that goes to show the thought of the person, right? They have the thought, they have this thought in life that this person owes me something, therefore he didn't give it to me, therefore he is at fault. No, we need to start taking responsibility. It's not the guru. I don't teach you anything. I am incapable of teaching you anything. You learn. Learning is an active process. And he goes on to talk about emotionalized, and I was going with that because my thoughts about this guy made me sad. I was emotional about it. And my thought was emotional, saying, wow, is the world really this bad that people sit around and comment on things where people are trying to help and say these terrible things? Right? What's the deal? And my thought was emotionalized. Now, I could take that emotionalized thought and I can run with it. And I could say, well, this is bad. I shouldn't put out more videos. I shouldn't put out more content. What the hell am I doing? I don't have a real job. I'm a failure. Okay? Because it's emotionalized. Or I could take the emotion out of it and say, what? He's one of 8 billion people. I got other people to reach. That's cool. Now he goes on to say that the emotions or the feeling portions of thoughts are what gives your life vitality. Pretty cool. Right? The emotional part is what gives you the vitality to go on. He also goes on to say that perfection will come through practice. Good. So you want perfection. Okay? Practice. Excellent. Practice. Okay, that's how you get perfection. Pretty simple. It can't come by merely reading instructions. Reading this book, so he says, Think and Grow Rich. Read yourself into a fortune. Perfection's not going to come by reading a book. Okay, so like perfection, if you define perfection as your life or your money or happiness or whatever, right? We look at that, and he says to himself, perfection comes through practice, it cannot come by reading. So we got to practice, right? We got to do this stuff. He goes on to say, faith is the only known antidote for failure. You want to feel better about failure? Have faith and do something different next time. Faith is the element which transforms the ordinary vibration of thought created by the finite mind of man into the spiritual equivalent. This is where it starts to get a little weird. Does that happen? I don't know. I don't live in like ghost land. Apparently he did, but you know, to each his own. Goes on again, page 35, talking about autosuggestion. He says it's a well-known fact that one comes finally to believe whatever one repeats to oneself, whether the statement is true or false. Right? If you say something to yourself over and over, or you hear something over and over, you will be indoctrinated to believe that it is so, whether it is so or not. And what we want to do is we want to stop being a victim of life, having life come at us, and taking these things and saying, well, this is what it is, and we want to start analyzing it and make a plan to change it through desire, faith, autosuggestion, and all these other things he talks about. He says, let's see here, thoughts which are mixed with any of the feelings and emotions constitute a magnetic force which attracts other or similar related thoughts. Now this is important because it's like the car thing we talked about earlier, right? Your thoughts that are mixed with emotion are going to start to attract like thoughts. Have you ever noticed how, like for me, okay, I had a weird childhood, had some abuse, and automatically because of that, my mind has preconditioned to watch out for certain things. Watch for people that look like this, watch for people that feel like this, watch out for it, right? I had a magnetic force in my mind that says watch for this. People who are conscious of money, people who are into money are conscious about that. People are into weightlifting, they're conscious about that. It's kind of like what you decide to focus your energy on is what it's going to get. Now personally, I believe that everyone in life is given the same amount of intelligence, right? Very important. You might say, well, isn't there dumb people and smart people? No. There's people with intelligence. It just matters what they choose to use the intelligence on. For example, my brother is an expert on drums and music. He'll tell you that riff right off the bat. He'll listen to something on the radio. He'll be able to play it. He picks up a guitar. Boom. He's on, right? He's good at that. Me, not so much. I don't know the difference between like a Stratocaster and a bass guitar or whatever. I probably know that one, but the drums I don't know so much, right? And we look at that, and it's because he trained his brain to look for it. Remember, practice is what makes perfection. Very important. You want to practice money stuff, get good at it, be perfect at it, right? He goes on page 37 to say, I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. This needs to be taped to the world. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity. Everyone, even the people who hate you. Even the guy on YouTube who said I'm terrible, right? That guy said terrible things. But I care about him too. He's totally entitled to watch my video. He's totally entitled to everything I'm entitled to, right? When we look at everything as equal playing field and we start to look at people differently, things start to change. Right? You can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want in life. Quote by, I believe that was Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar. He also says on page 47 that riches begin in the form of thought. Right? You can't have something you don't think about. You got to think about it. Okay, he goes on in the autosuggestion chapter to talk about how that works, how the mental power works, everything like that. Then he goes on in chapter 5 to talk about specialized knowledge. Okay, so here's the plan. Right? We got desire, belief, okay? Now we have specialized knowledge, okay? my brother wanted to make a fortune, he could go use his specialized knowledge of drums and guitars and go make a fortune. Okay? It's just what we choose to use. Remember, we all have the same intelligence, it's just what we choose to use it on. Unfortunately, some people like to use it on TV, and they know every person on the TV show, unlike me, who I drive my wife nuts because we'll watch a show for 5 seasons and I'll be like, the guy with the hat? And she's like, that's the main character, John. And I'm like, well, I didn't know that, right? A lot of people choose to use that. So what are you choosing to use your knowledge on? What are you choosing, right? So he says lots of people specialize on teaching knowledge, like in schools and things, but they do not specialize on the organization or use of the knowledge. What if you had specialized knowledge and the ability to use it? What if you knew how the internet worked? What if you knew how advertising worked? What if you knew how to get these companies to buy things or how to get paid or whatever? And he says that this missing link on page 56 in all systems of education may be found in the failure of educational institutions to teach their students how to organize and use knowledge after they acquire it. Do you know how to use knowledge after you acquire it? If I tell you how to do something, do you know how to apply it? Wisdom is applied knowledge and experience, right? Wisdom is applied knowledge and experience. Do you know how to use the knowledge? If I teach you to build a website, you can go build a website a day for people, or you could teach people to build a website, or you could do whatever you want, right? If I teach you how to make applications, okay, it takes you like a year to learn it, maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months, I don't know how fast you are, right? But once you do it, what do you do with it? You can go get a job with it, and that's fine, but getting a job will make you a living. Working for yourself can make you a fortune, and of course, the lifestyle I want requires me to work for myself. So we look at this and we're like, okay, cool, now we're getting the plan. Okay, so one, we got to know how to apply the knowledge. Also, we got to know how to get knowledge. Okay? In this day and age, I'm kind of torn with the idea of free college. I like the idea. I think college should be free. I like that idea. Okay? But I also don't like the idea because free college is kind of available now. You could learn anything you want on YouTube, on Google, with PDFs. You could learn anything you want. Okay? Anything. You could learn any trade. All right, will you know how to do like test tubes in science? Probably not. You can go to school for that. But if you want to learn like websites or whatever, gardening, you can learn that. And it's available everywhere. So the fact of the matter is if you feel like you should get a handout of information or a mentor should come and shake your hand and say, come on, buddy, I'm going to teach you everything, you are sadly mistaken, because this is about you and no one cares about your success as much as you do, or don't. Very important. So we look at this and we're like, okay, cool. Knowledge has no value except that which can be gained from its application towards some worthy end. Knowing all these things about drums doesn't mean anything unless you can use it for an end. Knowing all the stuff that I know on the internet. There are people in internet marketing that know far more than me, and they're broke. There are people that know far less than me, and they make 50 times what I do. What's the difference? The difference is in applied knowledge. How are you applying it? How are you using it? He says, going on to that college example and all this other stuff, anything acquired without effort and without cost is generally unappreciated. Okay, how many people watch videos? How many people consume knowledge and they're unappreciative? They're like, hey dude, you know, I know you taught me some cool stuff, but dude, like, can't you just teach me how to push F5 and make money fly out of my computer? No, F5 doesn't make money fly out of your computer. Printing money is actually illegal and shouldn't be done. But I can show you something pretty cool. Like right here, we are showing you the principles of success. Some of you guys will watch this and you'll be like, this is a bunch of horse shit. And you know what? You're right. It's total horse shit if you don't use it. But to the person who uses it, it's going to be some good shit, right? So we go on and we look at that. Anything acquired without effort and without cost is generally unappreciated. He goes on to say, one of the strange things about human beings is that they only value that which has a price. Interesting. So this idea of price tags, right? We'll make a little price tag here. This idea of price tags and putting numbers and figures to something is what triggers your brain to value it. And the flip side also works. It triggers other people's brains to value it. How do you charge $1,000 for a 1-hour coaching session, Marcus? Well, I ask for it. And then I darn well make sure that that call will make you at least 10 times as much, okay? We look at it, we're like, what value can I provide, okay? Now, again, what's the value? What I choose it to be. That's what it says in this book too. We go on. He says, they have learned from experience that any person who has the ambition to give up part of his spare time studying at home has in him the qualities which make for leadership. Are you taking the time to learn and organize what you learn for a reason, for an end, for a goal? Right? We look at this and we're like, okay, what is the goal? If you do, you already have some of the makings for success, he says on page 62. Okay, he goes on to say in page 63, he took inventory of himself. It pays to know how to purchase knowledge. Very important. Do you know how to purchase knowledge? When you go to school, are you just hoping the degree gets you a job? Or do you know how to purchase it with the intent of using it? Do you know how to purchase courses about making money online or offline or building a business? And do you know what you're looking for? Most people don't. And that's a sad fact. And people look at my YouTube videos and they'll say, that is the worst video in the world. And I just gave them a secret that could make them hundreds of thousands a year or possibly a month. And they missed it because they don't know what they're looking for. Very, very important. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. Very, very interesting. We go on in page 75, he talks about the example of Coca-Cola and imagination, which is his next part, right? Imagination. Do you have an imagination? If not, train yourself to have one, right? I used to think I wasn't creative because I worked for this guy who came up with ideas all the time and he acted on his ideas back when I was a kid. And I was like, why can't I be creative like that? And I learned I can be. All I need to do is train myself, and I've actually, in my opinion, far exceeded that creativity. And we go on and we're like, okay, cool, this is how it works. We've got to have imagination. All master salesmen know, on page 79, that ideas can be sold everywhere merchandise cannot. This is where we talk about getting butt-ass rich. Selling ideas. Right? You could go import a bunch of stuff from China. You could sell it. That's good. You can make money on it. Great. Sometime or another it'll probably dry up, but you can never run out of ideas. Ideas are only stored in my head, and if I can sell them where merchandise cannot be sold, aka the internet, which merchandise can be sold online, but not instant deliverable usually, and so we have that. And then he says, there is no standard price on ideas. What's it worth? What's an idea? What is it worth to you if I tell you that this niche with this website and this affiliate offer, like my high ticket niches program, is going to make money? What is that worth? What, $1,000 bucks? Well, I don't know. What if it makes you $100,000 a year for the next 7 years? Right? Well, then it was worth like almost $1 million bucks. So there's no standard price on ideas. The creator of ideas makes his own price, and if he's smart, he gets it. Right? And you say, well, Marcus, you know, there's a lot of people that have no money and it's very difficult in this economy. Well, if you think that way, yeah, but there's also a lot of rich people that have money just sitting around. Right? Like the example I used in my last video, we're talking about people buying Ferraris versus buying Toyotas. The guy buying the Ferrari doesn't give a rip about saving $1,000 bucks. He just wants his Ferrari. The guy on the Toyota, he's grinding and grinding. He's got to get payment plans. He's got to get this. On the Ferrari, you're making like 30 grand commission. On the Ford or whatever Toyota, you're making, you know, a couple $100 bucks or a couple thousand. He goes on in page 83 to say, if the first plan which you adopt does not work successfully, replace it with a new plan. And he goes on to say, the next one here, under imagination, hopefully we can erase this, under imagination, okay, next one under imagination is organized planning. Okay, cool. Organized planning. So we got desire, we got faith, we got imagination, we got organized planning. And he says if the first plan doesn't work, replace it with a new plan. Okay, so many people try their first plan and they expect it to work. Very few of my first ideas work right out of the bat until I got good at it and really knew what I was doing, right? But oftentimes if it fails, do a different one. Go to similar and on until you find one that works. That's what this is about, right? If you are going to work for yourself, whether it's an online business or whatever, you don't have a boss telling you what to do. This is the problem. So many people need to be told what to do because they've been trained that they need to be told what to do. They aren't able to go out and plan and say, this is what I'm going to do, here's how I'm going to do it. And he says right here is a point where a majority of men meet with failure. They meet with failure because they don't have the plan, and if the plan fails, they say, oh, well, you know, I built a website, I only got a couple clicks. Put a YouTube video up, 9 people saw it. One guy didn't like it. They got thumbs down, right? And it's like, whatever. We look at it and we're like, okay, well, let's make stuff that they do like. Let's try another one. Let's try a different angle. Because their lack of persistence in creating new plans to take the place of those which fail. You got to persist. 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 Okay? If you want something in life, you got to persist to get it. Right? Very, very, very important. So many people work harder on like getting tickets for a concert than they do like on their internet marketing, which is silly, right? And it goes on to say, this whole price thing, most people would do more work to save 10,000 bucks than to make 10,000 bucks, right? So they're like, okay, well, I'm going to work harder on not losing 10,000 than I am going to make. I'm the opposite. I'm like, whatever I lose is gone. I'm going to make some more because that's what I know how to do. I don't know how to protect it that well, right? I know how to make it, and that's what I do. Millions of men go through life in misery and poverty because they lack a sound plan. Very good stuff there. No man is ever whipped until he quits in his own mind. And he goes on to talk about this idea of temporary defeat and how it's only temporary. We look at defeat as if it's like the end of the world, right? Oh man, I only got, 5 people to the site. No one ordered. No one did this. No one clicked. Google wants too much money for clicks. The affiliate company won't accept me. Get over it. Right? You want to make it work. The best things in life are worth working for. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't take that long. Right? I could outpace someone who goes and says, I'm going to spend 8 hours today doing this, and gives up by just focusing 15 minutes a day on one simple task. Focus on one thing, specialized knowledge, one thing, do it really good, and do it over and over and make a bunch of money. As any efficient leader may, through his knowledge of his job and the magnetism of his personality, greatly increase the efficiency of others and induce them to render more service and better service than they could render without his aid. Right? It talks about inspiring others. And he says, in selfishness, because he knows that most men will work harder for recommendation and commendation than they will for money. Right? That's interesting. Most people would work harder for a pat on the back than they would an extra $1,000 on their check. Okay, you can't spend a pat on the back, but it sure does feel good. Find ways and means of teaching people how to apply the knowledge they they receive in school. If you could teach people how to apply knowledge, which is what I'm trying to do for you now, you can make a fortune because people don't know how to do that. And the economy is changing. The world is changing. The way business is conducted is changing, and you either get on board or you don't, right? Very important. Remember, it's not the lawyer who knows the most law, but the one who best prepares his case who wins. If your case is properly prepared and presented, your victory will have been won. Your victory will have been more than half won at the beginning or the outset or whatever. All right, page 101, he says, men are paid not merely for what they know, but more particularly for what they do with what they know. Very practical stuff. It's like, okay, we got to do something with this. We just can't sit around and think and grow rich. We have to work and grow rich. We have to do and grow rich, but it's not that hard, and here's the plan. Before you can start to negotiate for a readjustment of your salary in your present position on page 106, or to seek employment elsewhere, be sure that you are worth more than you now receive. This idea of worth. Worth. What are you worth? You want to raise? Be worth more. Do more. Sell more. Be better. Learn. Make yourself more valuable to the marketplace. It's one thing to want money. Everyone wants more, but it's something entirely different to be worth more, right? Are you worth more in terms of what you're providing to the marketplace? Now, you can be worth a little bit to a lot of people, or a lot to a little people. It's up to you. And we look at this, and he says, most of us have never taken inventory of the advantages of this freedom. We've never compared our unlimited freedom with the curtailed freedom in other countries. He goes on to talk about what it means to be an American, and he says America provides the freedom and all the opportunity to accumulate riches that any honest person may require. Right? If you're born in America and you're not getting this, it's because you're not doing it. Plain and simple. It's like, okay, well, here's a plan, you got to do it. Well, Marcus, I don't know this, I don't know that. Well, then go figure it out. It's all out there for you. And we got the internet, okay? Very cool. So after organized planning, he goes on to say decision. Decision. Decision is the big thing that kills many people. the inability to decide. Sometimes in business, you got to decide. Am I going to use this? Am I going to use that? Am I going to buy this? Am I going to do that? Am I going to start a restaurant, or am I going to teach recipes online? What am I going to do? And he talks about decision. He talks about on page 119, lack of decision, procrastination, and talking about quick and definite decisions, right? You need to be able to make decisions, because at the end of the day, it's up to you. And that's what comes up with responsibility. That's why people don't want to fail, because they're like, well, I'm responsible for failing. I'm going to look like an idiot. Well, no one cares, right? No one cares. Very few people care about what you do good and what you do bad. Very few. Like I got millions of people who watch my videos, and very few people care. Some of them say bad things and terrible things, and that's like, whatever, that's their problem. That's their deal, not mine. Reaching decisions promptly. Can you reach a decision promptly? Let's see here. Talks about being easily influenced by the opinions of others. Are you easily influenced by the opinions of others? Do you give a rip? I myself am guilty of this sometimes. I hate when people say bad things, but you know what? To each his own. I got to learn to live with it. I can't be influenced by it because, as he says, opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. You don't believe me? Look at the internet. Everyone's got an opinion about something. You know what? I don't give a shit about your opinion. I give a shit about my results and my life. I don't care about your opinion. Now, with that said, there's another side of the coin. Can you be willing to listen to the opinions of others without taking offense? I can listen to those guys and say, well, they didn't like my video. Maybe I did talk too long. Maybe it wasn't engaging enough. Maybe I should study more, right? Can I listen to it and take feedback? Because that's the essence of how marketing works. It talks about people with inferiority complexes. Okay, which really easy to get over that. If you have a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-value, then be worth more. Very simple, right? You want to be someone of more value. You want to be someone who has more self-esteem. Do esteemable acts. The best way to get more esteem is to help others. Right? Find something you're good at. Everyone has something they're good at and they can help people with. And you can do that and you're going to feel better about yourself because you're going to be more esteemable. Right? If you want more self-esteem, be more esteemable. Do things that people will hold in high regard and value more. In your search for the secret method, do not look for a miracle because you won't find it. Well, that kind of goes against what it said on the back of the book, but hey, this is practical. Those who reach decisions promptly and definitely know what they want and generally get it. Do you know what you want? And can you get it? If you know what you want, write it down. Say, this is what I want. I want to live here. I want to do this. I'm going to go get it. Right? After my big downfall, after I was an alcoholic for many years and had a very bad time, almost ended up taking my own life, I look at this and I was like, okay, well, you know, I could have lost everything. Literally everything. Right? There's nothing else to lose if you lose your own life. And I went on and I said, well, now that I'm sober, what do I want my life to look like? And within 2 years, I got most of it back. I was like, okay, well, this is what I want my life to look like. Let's do it. Right? Let's make it happen because I knew what I wanted and I was able to make those decisions and I had specialized knowledge that I had gained. And that's the thing, is learning this stuff is more than just making a few $100 a month or $1,000 a month or $1 million a year. It's more than that. It's being able to live how you want. It's being able to do what you want and get what you desire and help other people and do all kinds of cool stuff. That's the real value here. Lack of persistence on page 134 is one of the major causes of failure. The starting point of all achievement is desire. It talks about this idea of habit and ingraining things in your brain through habit, right? What do you do as a habit? If you're habitually looking at Facebook and getting down and commenting and being an ass, for lack of a better word, that's what you're going to get, right? If you're sitting around talking about how much Hillary sucks or Donald Trump sucks or taxes suck or whatever, your life's going to suck because you're focused on suck. But if you're focused on the good, if you say, hey, you know what, there's a lot of good going on in the world too. I'm going to focus on that even though they don't put it on the news. Let's focus on that and let's do good. He says, truly, if one has persistence, he can get along very well without many other qualities, right? If you have persistence alone, whatever you do, if you persist in it, it's going to work, right? If you do it the right way and you learn from mistakes and you look at what didn't work, organized planning, and you say, I'm going to do something different next time, you're going to get success, right? Success will be inevitable. Success is going to be inevitable for you, right? Make success inevitable by doing this stuff. Men take on the nature and habits and the power of the thought of those with whom they associate with. He goes on with this idea of your group. He talks about the mastermind group. Mastermind. Okay, now a mastermind could be a group of physical people that you meet. It could be an online group. It could be a forum. It could be whatever. Okay, but where are you hanging out? What are you listening to? You know, people like my dad, he surrounds himself with these Bible people who are depressing, right? And he's always depressed. He's like, I don't know why. I'm not funny anymore. Sometimes he's funny. But he always seems to be depressed. And it's like, well, why? Well, it's because you're associating with depressed people. Of course it's going to happen, right? It's like those people who watch movies that are late at night and they're all about killing and stuff. And it's like, well, why do I feel sad? Well, because you just watch hours of people killing themselves. Obviously, you're going to be sad. So your mastermind could also be TV, right? What are you masterminding with? So he says, get a good mastermind. But I also say don't have a bad mastermind. That's an important thing, just as important. All right, he goes on into, and we'll try to wrap this up. It's getting kind of long. He goes on page 161, 160. It becomes receptive. He's talking about your mind and the sixth sense. And this is what is known as unconscious competence. Being able to do something like driving without really thinking about it. Okay, unconscious competence. He says your mind becomes receptive to ideas which it could not reach the individual under any circumstances. So under any circumstances, these thoughts wouldn't reach you, but when you tune into them, it does, right? This is where the law of attraction stuff came from, although they took it a little bit too far and a little too mushy for me. He says, one of America's most successful and best-known financiers followed the habit of closing their eyes for 2 or 3 minutes before making a decision, right? This is like the book we went through, the 5-second rule, only the 5-second rule was kind of a little fluffy for me. I would have liked some more substance. But the idea of, hey, close my eyes, make a decision. Close my eyes, do what I got to do. That way you train yourself to forget about other stuff and just do what you got to do. The mind is a creature of habit. It thrives upon the dominating thoughts feeding it, right? If you feed yourself junk food, you're going to get fat. If you feed your mind garbage, you're going to get garbage, right? The dominating thoughts are going to happen. If you watch Fox News all day, I'm sorry guys, but Fox News is just opinionated and terrible. So is CNN, right? All of them are pretty bad stuff, right? Read the news. That's the best thing to do. Read the headlines. But if you watch this stuff all day, it's going to change the way you are. There are articles and videos written of families who their loved ones have gone down into this hole of watching news and being depressed and all these theories and stuff, and it's a wasted life. And the marketers are getting rich on it, don't get me wrong there, but it's a wasted life. Okay, as easy as it is to think about crap, don't do it. It's just as easy as going to the drive-thru and getting a greasy burger, right? Same thing, it's crap. It's easy. It's fun. It's mentally stimulating. The chemicals in the fat burgers are going to make you feel good. Just like when I was an alcoholic, right? Instant gratification. Have a beer. I didn't even have to drink it. It'd sit on the table. I felt better instantly. Right? It wasn't even my body yet. I shook when I didn't have it. Why? Because I was feeding my mind and my body poison. Are you deliberately taking poison by what you put in your mind? Are you deliberately taking poison by what's going on? And he says control comes from persistence and habit. This makes sense. We're talking about controlling the mind. The way you control your mind isn't trying to control it. It's changing what you pick up from the sea of thoughts. Very important. All right. Couple more here and then we'll let you go. Fears are nothing more than states of mind. Your fear of failure, your fear of everything, it's a state of mind. There's some fear that's good. Don't touch the hot stove. Don't get too close to the old Grand Canyon. Those things are good to fear. It's teaching you. But some things are irrational and silly. He says thoughts which have been released by other minds. Okay, interesting. So there's thoughts that can be released by other minds. And then he goes on the ghost of fear and he says kill the habit of worry in all its forms by reaching a general blanket decision that nothing which life has to offer is worth the price of worry. Nothing that life has to offer is worth the price of worry. You can't worry yourself rich, but you might be able to think and act yourself rich through a systemized plan. 1, desire and know what you want. 2, believe you can get it and show yourself that you can get it. 3, imagine. Get an imagination. Think, what can I do better? How can I help more people? How can I change this? How can I make a better mousetrap? How can I teach people better? What can I do? Imagine it. 4, like Walt Disney imagined, instead of filming things like this, I can film a flip book and kids will watch it. And I just went to Disneyland and I think he got pretty successful off of his imaginations. 4, organized planning. You got to plan. Then you got to work your plan. And if your plan doesn't work, find out why, learn from it. A smart person learns from his mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. Very important. Organized planning. Decision. Be able to make decisions. Put yourself in the situation where you can make a decision and you can live with the consequences, because they're usually not that bad unless you're doing something silly or illegal, which you shouldn't be doing. You're on the wrong video for that. Number 6, get a group, a mastermind. And number 7 was in here. It was getting rid of the ghosts of fear, subconscious mind. So 7, X out ghosts of fear. Right? Focus on your subconscious mind. Train it through autosuggestion. Okay? And, whew, it's hot. That is your plan. Can you follow that simple plan? It's easier than you think. All it has to do is taking specialized knowledge, applying that knowledge, saying no to the stuff that comes in bad, feeding yourself good, persisting, and taking responsibility. It's very simple. You're not going to sit and think and count your lucky stars to get rich, right? It reminds me of that movie, the Disney movie, Princess and the Frog, where you have the girl that's spoiled and rich, right? And she's there and she's like, please, please help me marry a prince or whatever. And the other friend that she has grew up poor. She was actually, you know, for more or less words, she was kind of like a slave, although she was paid. It's back when the things were changing. And she went through and she said, I'm going to do this by hard work. I'm going to do it by that. And that was good. But she didn't focus on what she really wanted. Once she focused on what she really wanted in life, things started to change and she got everything she wanted. Very good movie to watch. I know it's a cartoon and some people don't like cartoons. If you don't like cartoons, start liking cartoons, because life needs to be fun. But at any rate, this is how you do it, right? You start to work your plan. I hope you enjoyed this book review. It was really fun to make. It's something that's really, really important to look at. And your mind is the #1 block to making everything happen. Start to feed your mind good things. Start to change your mind. Start to make a plan. Work your plan. Follow the others who have done this before you, and look at the results, and your life will start to change. This has changed my life numerous times, and there's a lot more. So, Think and Grow Rich. Get it. Read it. I think it's free online through PDF. I'll put a link below. You can go to betterdaybuilder.com, and I'll put a link after you put your name and email, and we'll get you a free PDF of that. And do it. Thanks again for watching. I'm Marcus from betterdaybuilder.com, and I'll see you in the next book review.